He defaults to defending them, minimizing you, avoiding confrontation, expecting you to adapt. Not because he loves you less, but because his loyalty programming is louder than his adult awareness. Hi, I'm Veronica Cisneros, licensed marriage and family therapist, entrepreneur, and host of the Empowered and Unapologetic podcast. I was 1 month away from divorce. The court papers were filed. We had just had our first daughter, and I felt more alone than ever. My husband told me he was tired of competing with my career. I was overwhelmed, disconnected from my family, and questioning everything I had built. I didn't want to lose my marriage, but I also didn't want to keep losing myself. So I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I stopped pointing fingers and started doing the work on me. Now, after 25 plus years of marriage, raising 3 daughters, and running a thriving therapy practice, I'm here to help you do the same. This podcast is for the woman who looks like she has it all together, but secretly feels like she's falling apart. We're talking real marriage struggles, parenting teens, rebuilding trust, reclaiming identity, and finally feeling like you again. Pull up a seat. You don't have to figure it out alone. This is Empowered and Unapologetic. Why he chooses his family over you and why it hurts so deeply. Let me start with the sentence that so many women whisper to me in therapy, usually with tears in their eyes. Why does he choose his family over me? Not once, not sometimes, but over and over again. Why does he defend his mom when she hurts me? Why does he minimize my feelings when his family crosses boundaries? Why does he expect me to just tolerate and stay quiet or be the bigger person when they humiliate, judge, and criticize me? Why does it feel like I'm always second? And let me say this clearly before we go any further. This episode isn't about disliking your in-laws. This isn't about being jealous or dramatic. This isn't about control. This is about loyalty, identity, and unfinished childhood roles that followed your partner into adulthood and into your marriage. And today we're going to talk about the parts no one explains. Who he had to be as a kid, why he still feels responsible for his family, why he unconsciously expects you to step into that role, why this hurts so deeply, and how both of you are reenacting childhood patterns, often without realizing it. This episode isn't about blaming. It's about understanding and then deciding what changes. When your partner chooses family over you, it doesn't just feel frustrating. It feels like rejection, abandonment, betrayal. It feels invalidating, and it definitely feels unsafe because marriage isn't just about love. It's about priority. And when you feel like you're constantly being asked to tolerate disrespect, to stay quiet, to compromise your needs, to just let it go, your nervous system hears you don't matter as much. And that pain cuts deep, especially if you already grew up feeling like you had to earn love, you had to be easy, you had to be low maintenance, you had to keep the peace, or you weren't allowed to need too much. This dynamic doesn't start with your in-laws, though. It starts long before you even met your partner. So let's talk about your partner for a second, because most men who struggle with boundaries with their family aren't weak. They're conditioned. Now, say that with me. My husband's not weak. He's been conditioned. As kids, many of them learned not to upset mom, to be the good son, to keep the peace, not rock the boat, to take care of her emotions, to put family first always. Some were the emotional support child, the peacemaker, the protector, the fixer, the responsible one. And I want you to think about that for a quick second. When you look at that list, who did your husband have to be in his family? I want you to pay attention to what mom's like, what dad's like. Who did your husband have to be in that home? Did he have to be the emotional support child? Did he have to be the peacemaker? Did he have to be the protector? Did he have to be the fixer? Did he have to be the responsible one? And here's the part that matters. That role is what kept the family stable. That role earned love, approval, safety. So his nervous system learned, if I disappoint my family, especially my mother, something bad will happen, even as an adult. So when conflict arises between you and them, his body doesn't feel like a grown man choosing sides. It feels like a little boy trying to survive emotional fallout. And without realizing it, guess what he does? He defaults to defending them, minimizing you, avoiding confrontation, expecting you to adapt. Not because he loves you less, but because his loyalty programming is louder than his adult awareness. Let me say that again. This is not because he loves you less, but because his loyalty programming is louder than his adult awareness. And here's where it gets painful. Many men unconsciously expect their partner to accept the family dynamic, tolerate disrespect, carry emotional labor, be understanding, not making it a big deal. Why? Because that's what he learned to do. So when you push back, when you set boundaries, when you say this hurts me, he hears, you're asking me to betray my family. You're threatening my identity. You're disrupting what's always been. And instead of protecting the marriage, he protects the system he knows. Now, if you're not writing this down, go put this on pause, grab a pen and paper, and start taking notes. Because this is real. And I hear this happening so often. Again, instead of protecting the marriage, he protects the system he knows. But here's the truth. Here's the truth you need to hear. Marriage requires a new hierarchy. Your partner is no longer a child in his family, and you are not marrying into a family system. You are building a new one. And when he doesn't step into that role, the marriage pays the price. So let's talk about you now, because you're not crazy. Because many women in this dynamic also followed a familiar script growing up. Now, I want you to think about this. Which one did you fulfill in your family? You might have been the peacekeeper, the overfunctioner, the emotional caretaker, the one who swallowed feelings, the one who tried to be easy to love. So when your partner doesn't choose you, it reopens an old wound, past trauma, past unhealed pain. And that voice, it says, I'm still not enough. So what do? You try harder. You explain better. You bend more. You compromise yourself. You silence yourself until resentment builds. And suddenly you're angry, bitter, or exhausted. You don't recognize yourself anymore. Now, this isn't weakness. This is attachment pain. So let's talk about how this dynamic damages not only the marriage, but also the family. When boundaries with in-laws aren't addressed, here's what happens. Emotional intimacy erodes. Who the hell wants to have sex with somebody they don't feel safe with? Who the hell wants to have sex with somebody that doesn't stand up for them? Who wants to be intimate or even make out with somebody that doesn't provide you with that emotional safety? So yes, emotional intimacy erodes. Trust weakens. So this is where I see a lot of women step into that masculine energy and they start to emasculate their husbands. And it's not that they're doing this on purpose, but somebody for us, our thoughts are somebody needs to take the lead. Somebody needs to do this now because I'm not feeling safe. If I'm not feeling safe, my kids aren't safe. And so, yeah, I no longer trust my partner, which then leads to resentment slowly growing, and resentment builds. Now, one thing you all need to know is resentment is what completely tears the marriage apart. Resentment grows. And as that resentment starts to grow, guess what? Contempt starts to happen. Contempt starts to show up in the relationship. And this is where you start to position yourself higher than your partner. Well, yeah, I can't trust you. And I can't trust you because you always pick the family first. You're not man enough to stand up to your mom. You're not man enough to go ahead and take my side. That right there is one of the highest predictors of divorce. Sexual desire also drops. You no longer see your partner as sexy. Communication becomes defensive, or we start to criticize our partner, which then leads to your partner stonewalling and just checking out. You stop feeling like a team. And I hate to tell you this, but kids feel it too. Kids learn that boundaries aren't respected, that loyalty is conditional, that mom's feelings don't matter, that conflict is avoided, not repaired. This isn't just about today. This is about what gets passed down from generation to generation. Nothing breaks my heart more than watching women pour into everyone else and feel like they've completely lost themselves in the process. That's why I have founded Outside the Norm Counseling, because therapy shouldn't feel like one more thing on your to-do list. It should feel like relief. I'm Veronica Cisneros, licensed marriage and family therapist and host of the Empowered and Unapologetic podcast. And I know what it's like to look around at your life and think, why does everything feel fine but feels so off? At Outside the Norm Counseling, we help women who are high functioning on the outside but silently falling apart inside. Women who are waking up overwhelmed, snapping at the people they love, and carrying guilt that never seems to lift. And if you're not ready for therapy, that's okay. Let's start small. With my self-paced course, Reignite Your Marriage and Reclaim Your Identity. This is for you, not your husband. Because when you reconnect with yourself, everything else begins to shift. Head to OutsideTheNormCounseling.com to start. Remember, you don't have to keep holding it all together. You just have to take the first step. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to provide you with tools. So let's go ahead and reframe the problem. This isn't you versus his family. It's your marriage versus unresolved childhood roles. So remember, think about it. Who did he need to be and who did you need to be? And how are these two roles showing up and now at war with each other? So truly sit down and reframe the problem. Your marriage versus unresolved childhood roles. And so I want you to list out, like, what are some unresolved childhood roles? What has happened to you as a kid? Again, who did you need to be for mom? Who did you need to be for dad? What are the issues they brought into the relationship, and how have you adopted them and brought them into your now marriage? And I really want you to sit with this and take some time to write this down. This is really, really important. Step 2, name the role out loud. Ask, who did you have to be in your family? What happened if you didn't play that role? What did loyalty mean growing up? This right here builds compassion without excusing harm. Next, separate compassion from compliance. You can understand his pain and still require change. Compassion does not mean self-abandonment. Now I'm going to say that again. Compassion does not mean self-abandonment. Shift from blame to boundary. This is that next step, step 4. Shift from blame to boundary. Instead of, you never stand up for me, try something like, When I don't feel protected, I feel unsafe in our marriage. When I don't feel protected, I feel unsafe in our marriage. Step 5, create a clear marital boundary script. And some examples are, we'll discuss this together and respond as a team. We won't tolerate disrespect. Our marriage comes first. And have this open dialogue where your partner is able to go ahead and open up. Identify what your non-negotiables are and what are some of your areas of flexibility, and allow him to do the same. You guys aren't going to be on the same page with everything. Why? Because remember, all of those past roles come up. All of those past fears rear their ugly head. And what we don't want is them against you. And so this is where you're going to have to bite your tongue. It's so important you bite your tongue, because remember, often you're coming from a place of emotional overwhelm. And this is where I want you to check your emotions. This is very, very important for you to check your emotions, because otherwise what's going to end up happening is you're going to shut down. He's going to shut down, and we get nowhere. This is unresolved. And that's what we don't want. We don't want that. We want him to open up, right? We want to have conversations with him, right? Well, if we want those conversations to happen, then we need to show up. We need to be mindful and aware of where we're at emotionally. And we also need to be more intentional, because if we continue on this pattern, it goes nowhere and the relationship doesn't survive it. And that's not fair to you. And that's not fair to him either. So when you guys are writing a clear marital boundary script, really, truly think about, like, what are my non-negotiables? Where are my areas of flexibility? And then where are places that I can compromise? You're not compromising yourself, but where are places that I can actually compromise? Where can I be a little bit more flexible? And allow him to do the same thing. But listen to understand. And then here's something big. I strongly encourage individual work. This is often therapy level work, because you're not asking him to betray his family. You're asking him to grow beyond the role that once kept him safe, and also what once kept you safe. If you're listening to this and crying, it's because something finally makes sense. You're not asking for too much. You're asking for partnership. And if you're the partner struggling with this, you're not broken. You were shaped. But adulthood gives us a choice to keep playing the role or to build something new. Your marriage deserves more than survival. It deserves protection. Ladies, thank you so much for allowing me into your lives. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your journey. I know this isn't easy, and I know we're tackling some really uncomfortable, sensitive topics. But let's be honest, they need to happen. I know for me, I didn't realize how often I was constantly telling my husband, look at what your family is doing to you. Look at what they're doing to us. And I remember I was struggling with this in the beginning, when I was in my undergrad program. And so, I'm sorry, in my grad school program. And I remember sitting there talking to my therapist. And I'm so thankful. So part of my grad school criteria was that we had to go to our own personal therapy, and we had to do so many hours of our own personal therapy. And I'll have to say that I'm in there and I'm like, I don't even know what to discuss, right? Because I totally have my whole life together and I'm like totally perfect. And I grew up an amazing childhood, complete bullshit. And I remember talking about some of the things that were triggering me in my marriage. And as I'm processing through some of this pain, I remember the therapist looked at me and said, how many times are you going to, how many times are you going to remind your husband that his family is fucked up? And I was like, what? I'm not doing that. They're not fucked up. Yeah, you are. You are. How many times are you going to remind your husband that his family also has issues just like yours? How many times are you going to rub that in his face? And I was like, I don't know, like 2 more times. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Kind of, sort of, not really. But yeah, I didn't realize that that's what I was doing. And as I was processing through this pain with her, I realized the way Willie was acting and behaving around his family triggered so much for me, triggered things I didn't even know were unhealed. And it triggered abandonment for sure. And I needed to be the one that he picked. I needed to be the one that he picked. And I needed him to treat them just as poorly as they treated me. But I quickly realized that that's not the way this is going to go down. And as I started to develop more and more awareness of where this was coming from and how Willie was conditioned to believe that he had to be the fixer, he had to be the one that compromised himself. That was his role. And here I am as his wife trying to pull that role from him when that's all he knew. That's all he knew. I realized, well, wait a minute. Well, if he's behaving in that manner to protect his family, how am I behaving? And I realized, oh, damn, I'm doing the same thing. Whenever my family would criticize him or make fun of him, we joke a lot in my family, and we have very, very thick skin. Not to say Willie doesn't have thick skin, he does. But it's just something that we did. And when they would make fun of him, when they would call him names or do certain things, I would just go along with it. I would play along with it. And I remember Willie saying, why don't you defend me? And it's like, what do you need to be defended from? I didn't get it. And it didn't click. Like, here I am asking for the same thing he's asking of me, but it didn't click. And it didn't click because this was our norm. This is just something my family did. And if I were to go ahead and correct my family, well, they would have issues with it. They'd be like, dude, why are you taking it so seriously? Like, calm down. But it was true. It was so true. We were both sticking to our roles, but leaving each other to fall, leaving each other to experience a great amount of pain, leaving each other to experience a great amount of just this feeling of betrayal. And I knew I didn't want to do that anymore. And I knew that was unfair, but I also didn't know how to let go of this role that literally embodied all of me. It was me. It was my identity. Well, so I thought. And it wasn't until I started really, really processing through that pain and really processing through that role that I realized, this is a part of me. And it's a part of me that shows up when I'm afraid. It's a part of me that shows up when I feel my insecurities are exposed. It's a part of me that shows up when I don't know how to take that next step. And so I really, really had to learn how to take those next steps and what to do and how to heal from that past pain. So I was no longer this people pleaser. I was no longer freaking avoiding the emotion. I was sitting in it. I was processing through it. And it was through that change started to happen. And yes, I had several uncomfortable conversations with my family, and I had several uncomfortable emotions that I had to process through. And I'm so thankful that I did, because now it's not about stealing each other's role. It's about understanding it. And I really do believe that that was also something that helped Willie and I get to where we're at today. Don't get me wrong, by no means are we perfect. However, we did just celebrate our 26th wedding anniversary. And that's not from luck. That's from work. Work that I did personally and work that he did. Ladies, if this resonated with you, please let me know. Definitely write a review. And share it with me. Share it with me on social media, because the more reviews I get, the more people I can serve. Thank you so much again for allowing me into your lives. And I just want to say that I'm here with you. And If there are other topics you would like me to teach, send me a message. You guys can find me on all social media as Hey Veronica Cisneros. Again, that's Hey Veronica Cisneros on all social media platforms. And send me messages just so I know exactly what you guys like, what you guys want more of, and I could provide those lessons to you. All right, that's all that I have for today. Bye for now. Raise your hand if you are ready to level up your marriage for 2023. Do you find that you're spending your time together with your husband checked out and in front of the TV? I know you're ready for tangible strategies that actually get you results. Reignite the spark in your marriage, have fun, and grow together. Well, I hope you have your hand raised at this minute because I have something special for you. I'm introducing my brand new 6-question marriage predictor quiz that's gonna give you personalized results to catapult you into the next stage of your marriage journey. That means you'll receive the results to where your marriage can get the best help. If you've got just 1 minute, head to veronicacisneros.org/quiz. Again, that's veronicacisneros.org/quiz. And you can take my brand new quiz, Marriage Predictor. Get your results delivered right to your email address. Again, that's veronicacisneros.org/quiz. veronicacisneros.org/quiz. What's up, ladies? Just want to let you guys know that your ratings and reviews for this podcast are greatly appreciated. If you love this podcast, please go to iTunes right now, write a review, rate the episode, and subscribe. Don't forget to share it with your friends.